Hello. Okay, so today we're going to be using scraps of different colored paper, some glue, and scissors or your hands, okay? We're going to be making some collages. That's when we rip lots and lots of pieces of paper and stick them all down to create a picture. Okay, we're going to be making a collage of some flowers in a field today, kind of like when we did our oil pastel drawings, okay? We're going to try and cover as much of the paper as possible with lots and lots and lots of flowers. But this time, we do want them all to come from the bottom up, okay? So you can hold your paper however you want, but we're going to make lots of different flowers, and they're going to all start on the bottom and come up, okay? So I have lots of different kinds of paper in front of me. Some of them are scraps with funny edges. Some of them are strips of paper from other projects that we didn't get to use. And some of them are pieces that we already cut circles or different shapes out of, and they have different textures on the front and on the back, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start ripping and cutting and creating one petal at a time for different kinds of flowers, and then I'm going to do the same thing for my stems and my leaves, okay? So we learned all different kinds of flowers last class. Now, instead of drawing them, I want us to try and cut and piece them together. You can cut these with scissors, or you can rip them with your fingers. I think the best way to rip is, instead of pulling and dragging and tearing them apart with your fingers really far like this, is to hold your fingers really, really close together and do it really slowly and pull and twist the paper in the direction that you want it to go, okay? I think this works great with petals because petals aren't perfect circles. They're not perfect triangles or any perfect shape. They kind of have wiggly edges like this. So I'm gonna try and make the paper work for me and turn them into a bunch of petals, okay? So I think I want to make a purple flower next. I did a red one over here. I made a red tulip. But something else that I want you guys to pay attention to is we're not going to use the same piece of paper. I'm not going to use just this piece of paper for the whole flower, because then it's all going to look the same. We want it to look like there's light and shadows on all these beautiful petals. That's why we're using some paper that's all textured like this. So I think I'm going to do one more from this, and then I might pick up a different piece of paper. So here's a petal. I'm going to put it off to the side. Kind of like this area that's a little darker than that. It's got some cool texture. I think I'm going to rip it like this. And I just want this tiny piece, okay? I think that looks pretty good, but I don't want this piece. Maybe this time I'll try and cut it off and maybe round it a little bit. How does that look? I think that looks pretty good. So now I've got two petals. They're a little different from each other. This time I think I'm gonna use this purple piece. I think that might look pretty in there. Maybe this section. And see how I'm not cutting right into the middle of my paper? I'm using pieces on the edges first, and I'm making some of them a little bigger, some of them are a little smaller. Maybe this one's going to be a tiny little petal. That one, I don't know if I like that one. I might cut a little bit off. I think that looks a little bit better. What do you think? Here's a different kind of pinkish purple. Maybe I want a couple of really long pink petals, so I might cut this one and make some long pointy petals with this one. Maybe this one's a little curvy. I think I like that. And now I have all different petals, and I can move them around on my paper and decide where I want to put them. So I can play around with it almost like a puzzle. I think I like that so far. Maybe a long one over here. I think maybe I'll switch these two and do a really long one this way. Oops. And then one, maybe this one pokes down, and then a little one here. I think I like that. So now that I know where I want these to go, I'm gonna pick up one petal at a time and glue them down so they're nice and neatly in place, okay? So I can kind of like shift it over a little bit, and I'm gonna do one petal at a time. I'm gonna do a little bit of glue, stick down my petal, a little bit of glue, stick down this one, a little bit of glue. And it's okay if they poke up just a little bit, but we don't want them to be hanging off the paper so much that if somebody walks by your table really fast or laughs really hard and then your breath blows it all over the place. We don't want that. We want our petals to stay in place. So we want to put enough glue where they stay, but not so much glue that it looks like we're using paint on our pictures, because that's a little wasteful. All right, so there's my second flower. I think I want something in the middle this time though. So I might pick up a different piece of paper. I think this one might look kind of cool in the middle. And here's where we can start to have some fun. This piece has this really long skinny scrap that was sticking out of it. I think I would like to cut some skinny little pieces and make them poke up in the middle of my flower. So I'm going to put down some glue right in the middle, and then I'm going to very carefully make a pointy middle with all these little pieces, and I'm going to have them stick up. You zoom in so you can see better. Oops, this one got stuck to my finger, but that's okay because I can clean my hands after. I'm going to have them all poke in different directions and really push it down so they're not flying all over the place. And I think that looks pretty good. So now that I've got some flowers, remember you're going to do lots of them all over, I think I need a stem for this one. So what I'm going to do is I have these skinny pieces that I cut. I'm going to put one of these down right there. I think looks pretty good, but it's a little too long, so I might just cut some of it off, just like that. And then I think I want some really long stem or leaves for this. So I'm gonna draw the shape with my glue stick and do a couple of really long, maybe this one can be a different color. So this one's a little too thick. I'm gonna use my scissors and cut a long squiggly leaf. I think it's still a little too big though. See how I'm holding it where I want it and then deciding if I need to take some pieces off or change it or use a different piece of paper. Okay, I'm gonna put this one right there, and I can actually twist and move it after it's on the paper and then push it down where I want it to go. And there's my flower. Okay, so I think I'm gonna see if you guys can do this on your own. What do you think? I think so. Some other things that you can do is you can cut pieces of grass to put on the bottom. Lots of little pieces of grass. You can use all different kinds of green for your leaves and your stems. You can do different kinds of flowers. So this one's a tulip. This one I kind of made up in my head. You can do some that are really tiny and some that are really big. But let's see if we can fill this piece of paper with some beautiful flowers.